Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our virtual town hall meeting. This is the second of four meetings which we are holding each Monday in the month of August. We are taking this opportunity to provide general updates that will be the same from some of our neighborhood liaisons, and then some of our information will be specific to the communities that we are specifically talking to this evening. This evening, we will have specific updates from our neighborhood liaisons and city staff as it relates to the west side and the south side neighborhoods. We wanted to take this opportunity to share these updates with you, our residents. We are all working very differently this year than we were last year. All of our community events, festivals, and activities that we would normally have held have been postponed and in many instances canceled due to COVID-19. And we are learning to communicate in different ways. A lot is going on in our city, our country, and our nation. A global pandemic, civil unrest, and one of the most violent summers that we have seen in our city in quite a while. We will continue to work with each of you every day to address these issues and to find real solutions. While it may not seem like it in some days, we know that better days are ahead for all of us. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to our hosts this evening, Melissa Green, who is our Westside Pride Center manager, and Beth Fairman Kenny, who is our Southside Pride Center manager. Ladies, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Green. I am the liaison for the west side of Columbus. And I just wanted to first give you a couple of community updates before I send you over to Beth to hear about her role over on the south side. So here on the west side, and much like a lot of areas across the rest of the city, we are still active and engaged through the work in our area commissions. And I wanted to provide at the top of these updates a brief reminder that all three of our west side area commissions, our Greater Hilltop Commission, Franklinton, as well as our Westland Area Commission, are all meeting virtually online. And you can catch those meetings on Facebook Live. The Hilltop Commission meets the first Tuesday of the month at 7. Franklinton is the second Tuesday of the month at 6. And Westland is the third Wednesday of the month at 7. All three of those commissions are also in the process of accepting applications for their upcoming area commission elections. And so if that's something that you are interested in learning more about, you can contact the chairs of those commissions to gain some information and knowledge about what that process might look like and how you can become more engaged in serving your community. I also wanted to provide a brief reminder about the Greater Hilltop Library, which has been currently closed for renovations for the last couple of months. And they do have a new temporary location that is at 3658 Soldano Boulevard. They're still able to do limited public access from that location, including picking up items from the library, as well as doing some printing, copying, scanning, which I know is a really great service for the community. So close to where like the Kroger is in the Hilltop area, if you guys are in need of any of those services, you can reach them out there. Just today, actually, both the Franklinton and the Hilltop libraries launched a really exciting job help classes that are available at the library locations. And so during this time of COVID, I know that there has been a great need now for employment opportunities. And if you're looking for some assistance, refining your resume, figuring out what opportunities are available locally here in our communities, you can go Monday through Thursday between 11 and 1 p.m., as well as 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., and get some assistance through those programs. Just a brief update from our West Side staff team. So our code enforcement, our refuse are out there still working. I'll leave all the refuse updates to Adam a little later on in the agenda. But as far as code enforcement, we're still responding to exterior violations and emergency interior violations. So if you or someone you know needs assistance through code, please continue to contact 311. Our 311 call center is back open now. Also, for those of you who might not be aware, our 19th Precinct Community Liaison Officer actually is in the process of transitioning to a new role on the police force. And so in the interim, while we're looking to fill Officer Newsom's position, For those of you who are seeking direct contact with a officer, you can contact Lieutenant Scott Bartholow at 614-645-4002. Also, I just wanted to take an opportunity to let everybody know about our community COVID testing sites that are still up and running. We do have 2 West Side locations. The first location is in Franklinton at Lower Light, or is run by Lower Lights at Mount Carmel West at 777 West State Streets. And those are only open on Fridays between 9 and 5 p.m. Just so you know, if you want to get tested at that location, you do need to be experiencing at least 1 mild symptom. As well as our Hilltop location is at Primary One Health and Wellness Center, and that's at 2300 West Broad Street, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. At that location, you do not need to be showing any symptoms, but you do need to call and register in advance at 859-1895. So with that, I'll kick it over to Beth to share about some information on the south side.
Thank you, Melissa. Oh,
Beth, if I could
yes.
just jump in before you do that, if I could jump in, and it looks like our mayor was able to join us. And so if we could take a pause right here and allow the mayor to jump on and address our residents, that would be great. Mayor, welcome.
Good evening, and it is great to be with you. Thanks for your patience this morning. I was juggling a sick kiddo and some other things, and so appreciate everybody's patience and willingness to let me join a few minutes late here. It's great to be with you, Director and City Attorney's Office, the Department of Neighborhoods, Beth and her colleagues that are doing a great job as neighborhood liaisons and partners throughout the community. Public service, I know Chris Kozad and all of the town hall participants here tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the last few months have been unprecedented. Global pandemic, health crisis, human services crisis, and economic crisis. National reckoning over racial injustice and police brutality, a spike in violence, especially amongst young people, the likes of which we've never seen here in the city. I want you to know that city departments and many external partners have been working to slow the spread of the virus, to help with the basic needs of the community, of our neighbors, to work towards a more equitable economic recovery and make lasting changes that our community desperately needs. With respect to COVID-19, when the virus first struck, we immediately put a number of policies in place to ease the burden on residents for core city services. Temporary suspension of collections on EMS, city income tax, and EMS transportation fees. We suspended water and electric turnoffs, restored water and power to hundreds of the most recent to lose service. Last thing we wanted to happen in a global pandemic is to have folks with water turned off when we were telling them to be washing their hands and protecting themselves and their families. And we worked with Franklin County municipal courts to waive evictions and set-outs for 8 weeks. We also got much needed funds to a number of partners in the community to help with those basic needs at the beginning of this crisis. $1 million for the Community Shelter Board to help with the increase in a homeless population and being able to quarantine the homeless who were sick to help slow the spread in our shelters. $400,000 that we gave to Life Care Alliance for Meals on Wheels for our seniors, certainly one of our most vulnerable populations with the pandemic. $500,000 for the YMCA to help sustain their housing efforts, to help keep families in stable housing, and over $100,000 to the Columbus Urban League for technical support for small businesses who are facing unprecedented challenges at the beginning of the pandemic. We've been using CARES Act funding from the U.S. Treasury to help with the health crisis, the human resource crisis, and the economic crisis. 17.2 million for human service programs for those in real need right now in our community. 2 million for expanded summer programming because this pandemic has been especially disruptive on our young people. And we had to go about summer programming differently this year based on guidance from public health experts and public health officials to make sure that kids were safe and healthy in summer programming. We also invested $7 million for Chromebooks for Columbus City schools, and an additional $1.5 million to help with broadband access for families. As everybody on this call knows, Columbus City schools will be returning with virtual only education. And so making sure that every student, not every family, because if you have 3 or 4 kids in the family, you can imagine what it's like trying to get 3 or 4 different kids on Zooms at the same time, at different reading, math, and science levels. So for every student to have a Chromebook and have broadband access is going to be a game changer, we think, in helping reach and keep as many kids as possible on track when they are able to return to the classroom. And obviously all of us need to do our part to make sure that happens as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. We invested over $6 million into childcare centers because we do a lot of our families, our moms and dads, couldn't get back to work to help make ends meet without childcare centers. $10 million we invested with rental assistance because we thought the best way to slow their spread was to keep families in their home and to keep those families in safe, affordable housing. And obviously $1 million for rental, for utility assistance, because many folks at the beginning of the crisis fell behind in their water and electric bills, and we wanted to make sure we put assistance out there for folks so that they could keep their utilities turned on during this crisis. You know, with respect to racial justice, you know, it makes the global pandemic and so many of the other battles we have going on that much more challenging. But we know with respect to racial justice, it's a fight that's been going on for 400 years. And I'm furious, to be very honest with you, that in 2020, we're fighting the same battles for some of the same causes that our parents and grandparents marched and fought, and in some cases were harmed or died over 50 years ago. I've been very clear that I believe racism exists in every facet of our culture. That's not unique to Columbus. Unfortunately, it's universal. But I assure you that I have been and committed to change. That's why we commissioned an independent report of the Columbus Division of Police from Matrix Consulting, and it found that our officers and our residents saw huge disparities in the way things were handled and what they were experiencing. Our police officers, especially our officers of color. The results of the study are not opinions. They are experiences, and they are facts. We also received the recommendations of the Columbus Community Safety Advisory Commission. These are community members with different perspectives on points of view, and we're working at implementing those changes that cover everything from recruiting to training and a civilian review board. Our civilian review board, there is a charter amendment that will be placed on the ballot for voters to decide on this November. And it's the first time Columbus voters will have a chance to vote on civilian oversight of police. And I know Stephen Sayer from the mayor's office will talk to you more about that in depth in a few moments. Our civilian review board working group had its first meeting, as well as our chief's advisory panel that'll be meeting with Chief Tom Quinlan to address the needs of the community. There's also a number of changes already that we've made that many of you are aware of over the last several weeks and months. One of the ways we need to address police reform is to making sure the people who police us reflect the beautiful diversity of our community. Our application period to select the newest recruits for the Division of Police just ended. And I am happy to report that it is the most diverse list of applicants ever, with nearly half representing people of color and women. And I know there are some folks in the community that believe that you have to choose between supporting the police and demanding them reform. I believe those are false choices, and I reject false choices, whether they come in this guise or in any other. We can support the division of police and demand that they change and reform to make sure they're more accountable and transparent as we move forward. We've done that in the past with cameras in cruisers and body-worn cameras. We've also enhanced our crisis intervention training to make them better equipped to deal with what they see on the streets and giving them de-escalation tools to help make sure they and the folks that they're serving remain safe. We all know that racial justice and equity do not begin and end with police reform. There's so much more work to do. My Say the City address in February at West High School, I laid out the equity agenda, an agenda that calls out racism and discrimination wherever it exists, and our plans to address it. So what does that really mean? It means reducing infant mortality by making sure that Black babies reach their first birthday and thrive in their earliest years of life. It means ensuring access to high quality pre-K, regardless of your zip code. And that's exactly why we're building in partnership the Hilltop Preschool to do what we've done in Linden and open up high quality learning opportunities for 4-year-olds, up to 200 a year at the new Hilltop Preschool Center. It means working to reduce evictions where we know Black mothers and their children are disproportionately impacted and increasing the availability of affordable housing. It means creating more opportunities for Black-owned and women-owned businesses to have equal access to city contracts and success. It means connecting residents to good-paying careers in the trades. And it means ensuring our residents feel safe wherever they go, including their interactions with police, because there's no greater inequity than the brutality that can happen at the hands of the police. Around youth violence this summer, and it's in cities across the country, it's not unique to Columbus. Mid-sized and larger cities are seeing spikes with youth violence that we have never seen before. And we know that gun violence is on the rise in this community, especially amongst our young people. Every day brings reports of more shootings, more homicides, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 17-year-olds, not just the victims, but the shooters. I'm talking to you now not as your mayor, but as a father, the father of a 10-year-old. And we each have a role to play in dealing with this violence amongst our young people. We have to embrace the families who've lost a loved one. I simply cannot imagine the grief as a dad. We must respond to opportunities to reach out to our youth, our disengaged. And I encourage you to report what you see. One of the biggest problems we're having with the violence right now is it's actually a very small number of young people that are continuing to commit more and more violent crimes because of an unwillingness for folks to come forward with information with police. We can't get those young people what they need, and we can't protect the community. Oftentimes, the perpetrator of a violence, gun violence today, is the victim tomorrow. And so we need to do everything we can to get them what they need, to get them off the streets and protect them. Last week, we announced additional efforts to curb gun violence in our community. So we'll have micro intervention teams of police officers, social workers, and juvenile court prosecutors reaching out to at-risk youth with the offer of wraparound services and jobs from the Franklin County Jobs and Family Services, from the Family Stabilization Unit, versus potential prosecution. We're going to be expanding ShotSpotter, our gunfire detection system that's proven successful at getting police to crime scenes quickly. It'll be expanded to the Near East Side and in expanded coverage areas where we already have it in the Hilltop, Linden, and South Side. And a new partnership with Grand Hospital has started with Columbus Public Health, Recreation, and Parks called VOICE, Violence, Outreach, Intervention, Community Engagement, to providing bedside intervention to victims of assault and gunshot wounds to help them create opportunities for change. And we're going to be investing up to $2 million of CARES Act funding to partner with social service agencies and trusted community partners embedded in neighborhoods. You know, those organizations that have street cred at the neighborhood level that can reach out and touch these young people and hope to get them on the right path because they can operate and intervene differently than government programs. Remember, the situation we are in right now is temporary with respect to COVID-19 and the youth violence and economic crisis that we're facing. We all have a role to play in how our community recovers from these unprecedented events. I know there are a lot more people on the agenda to talk with you tonight. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and I'll be happy to take a question or two if we have time. I know that there's a lot to get through here in the rest of the hour. Director, any questions or anything you'd like me to touch base on before I let you all get back to your agenda?
Absolutely, Mayor. We do have a couple questions in the chat box. And so I'll start with, I'm not sure how long you have, but there's one from Alexandria, and she's asking, how will the kids access Wi-Fi or internet? And especially if there are multiple kids in the family online at the same time, are there programs for low-income internet users for school-age kids?
Yes, we have the more immediate need. And so most of I think all the Chromebooks that are going to be distributed by Columbus City Schools will have hotspots or that broadband access that is necessary for Zooms and to download and to access curriculum and instruction. So that'll be embedded in each one of the devices. We are part of a larger coalition that's been formed by the Columbus Foundation and other partners to look at broadband access throughout the community, because the digital divide isn't just real in rural areas, it's certainly true in urban areas. And it might not necessarily be that the infrastructure isn't there, but the cost is such a huge barrier for so many of our families. And so we're looking at that from a longer term standpoint as well. But each of the Chromebooks that Columbus City Schools will be distributing will have high-speed internet access, I believe, embedded in the device through hotspot technology.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And another question from Joseph, and he says, thank you for your time this evening. What specific strategy is engaged for equitable distribution of affordable housing in all of our neighborhoods in Columbus, given our expected population growth?
Well, it's a great point, and I would encourage, did you say Joseph? Was that question from Joseph?
Yes, yes, sir.
I'd encourage Joseph, and maybe our staff can follow up with the regional strategy that MORPSI's been putting together, because affordable housing isn't just Columbus's issue and challenge, it's the region's. And so we were so fortunate that a number of our suburban communities inside Franklin County and 2 counties adjacent to us joined in this regional strategy that was developed by MORPSI and many housing experts, because we really want more affordable housing in neighborhoods where there isn't nearly enough of it. And we want more market rate housing in our opportunity neighborhoods. We really believe that mixed income neighborhoods is what makes for great cities. And so for the first time ever, we had the people of Columbus got a chance to vote on our last bond package. It's the first time ever we had money set aside specifically for affordable housing. We've changed our incentive policies to require people who want incentives from the city to include affordable housing as part of their development projects. And I see Erin as well. She may very well, I don't know if she's going to talk about community aggregation, but other things tonight that we think there are other ways that we can continue to increase the access to affordable housing. We're also expanding a land trust that we started on the South Side in partnership with Community Development for All People, because the last thing we want to do, Joseph, is build hundreds of millions of dollars of new affordable housing today that private developers sell 10 years from now, make a bunch of money off of it, and that housing is no longer affordable for the next tenants or next owners. So we're starting to expand our land trust, which allows people to make a decent appreciation off of the home, but the land stays in a trust. So when that apartment or home is sold, it remains affordable for the next owner to make sure we're protecting our affordable housing investments. There are some that say that we're about 54,000 units short of affordable housing right now. That number is only going to grow, to your point, if we grow by another third over the next 30 years. So the city, the county, our suburban neighbors are all working together to address this. But I have good friends in cities that have grown as much over the last 20 years that we're going to grow in the next 30. And every one of those mayors have said, get busy on it now, get started on it now, because it is so much harder 10, 20, 30 years from now when the demand is as great and their population's growing. The time to act is now.
And I think, Mayor, I think if you have time, we have time for one more question. And this is a safety question from Alexandria.
Okay.
And she asked, how will bad police officers be dealt with? Can they be fired? And what teeth does the Civilian Review Board have when it comes to firing or addressing officers?
It's a great question, Alexandria. And we know that the overwhelming majority of our officers are outstanding men and women who do a great job of serving us every day. But we clearly need to change the way that we hold those officers who are not serving and protecting everyone accountable. We've done that a number of times since I've become mayor, only to have some of those firings overturned through the appeals and arbitration process. That's something that has to change, not just in Columbus. If you look at Minneapolis and many of these other cities that have struggled with firing bad police officers because of a broken system. But this Civilian Review Board charter amendment issue is the first step. We know that this is going to take time to get this fixed and to get this right. Quite honestly, it has been broken for decades and for far too long. The FOP has been calling the shots on discipline, oversight, and accountability, I would argue probably to the tune of 70 years. And so it's going to take time to fix this, but this charter review amendment would put in our city's charter, our city's constitution, that this Civilian Review Board would be in place, that it would have subpoena power and the independent Inspector General who would oversee the investigations and work with the Civilian Review Board. Our plan is to have the Civilian Review Board seated by the end of the year. This working group that I shared with earlier is working on best practices for around the country and what will serve the people of Columbus best. They will do investigations and make recommendations from the Civilian Review Board to the chief for discipline and action on officers that are acting outside of our standards, policies, protocols in the future. This will also require us to negotiate with the FOP, and our contract expires with them at the end of the year. And we believe that it'll put us in a much better position to negotiate the full power, spirit, and belief in the Civilian Review Board with the FOP if the people of Columbus have weighed in on it and supported this issue in the November election. So this is one of many things we're working on right now, but this is going to be a long process that we're going to have to continue to make change and continue to push oversight and accountability at every step along the way.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple more. One, someone's asking a question about the 300-gallon containers, and I'll let our friends from Public Service answer that. But if you could, there's one final question here as it relates to safety, and it's from Steven, and he's asking about what evidence is there that the shot spotter system is actually effective at reducing violence. And these are expensive interventions. And he's saying that trusted community partners could do more with these funds.
Well, I appreciate and respect the perspective. There's a couple of things I would say. I support all of the above strategy, and as I listed here, the micro intervention teams, working with community partners, and expanding ShotSpotter. Be happy to get you the data and details, and I'll have somebody from my office follow up. Deputy Chief Bash and I believe Commander Ware have some good information on ShotSpotter. We know that one of the biggest issues with respect to gun violence, nationally, 80% of shots fired across the country go unreported to police. 80%. And that does two critically, I think, negative things in communities across America. First of all, the police don't know those shots have been fired. That hasn't been called and reported in. So they aren't able to get there and either, contain or deal with the situation or take illegal crime guns and violent criminals off the street. But it also sends a very negative message to the community because those police aren't responding. And so those neighbors, whether or not they called it in, feel like the police don't care about that neighborhood and those neighbors. And we think shot spotters are a great way to get officers on the scene as quickly as possible, take illegal crime guns off the street, and to help contain violence. I'll tell you that this shot spotter technology, just in the last 2 weeks, had police and paramedics on the scene where a person had been shot and was slumped over in their car. And because of shot spotter, that person lived. And so, but we'd be happy to get you all the stats. I agree with the perspective that community groups with street cred need resources. We need to invest in these micro intervention units that we've talked about that will have social workers, prosecutors, police officers, mental health working together to give these young people a path forward, a path out of what they're part of now. Also having them understand that there'll be consequences if they don't choose that path. And working with their families to support them during this time. But we'd be happy to get you more details on shot spotters. We wanted to wait a full year before we expanded the coverage in the 3 existing neighborhoods and before we added neighborhoods. So I think the results have been pretty overwhelming and support this expansion, but we're happy to share those details with you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think that's all we have for you. There's one question from Kelly, and I'm going to Adam, I'm going to ask if you can get to that question when we get to it. She's asking about when can her community get 90-gallon containers instead of the 300-gallon refuse containers.
Yeah, and that's something that we worked very closely on, particularly with our friends on the west side, the Hilltop Area Commission. And I think it's shown some great progress. I think Adam will be able to speak to that more in detail, but neighbors have been very happy. And it's been one way, in addition to our offensive on fighting illegal dumping and the great work that's been led by Tim and the rest of the team at Refuse. We're starting to make some headway. But I think during this pandemic, with so many more people working remotely and working from home and that much more trash and refuse, this is going to be an ongoing battle. But we do believe the smaller containers, particularly in our more densely populated neighborhoods, are making a difference. So I'll let Adam, who knows a whole lot more about all this, and deal with the details. I know enough to be dangerous, but know we're heading in the right direction. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And thank you for letting us kind of deviate from our schedule. And I'm going to go back to Beth Farahman-Kinney. And Beth is our Southside Pride Center manager, and she is going to give you some updates on the Southside. Beth?
Thank you very much, Director, and thank you, Mayor, for joining us tonight. So I have the pleasure of working with the Southwest, Far South, and Columbus Southside area commissions, and I wanted to share some of their next meeting updates with you. So the Southwest Area Commission will be meeting tomorrow, August 18th at 6:30 p.m. The Far South Area Commission will be meeting Thursday, September 3rd at 6:30 p.m. And the Columbus Southside Area Commission will be meeting Tuesday, September 26th at 6:30 p.m. All 3 of these area commissions are meeting virtually, and for their links, if you go to our Columbus Neighborhoods page, our website, we have the links for all those meetings so you can join and watch them via WebEx or Zoom. As the Southside Neighborhood Liaison, I work with some great partners, and they've got some great events coming up. So Southside Thrive has a meeting this Wednesday, August 19th at 4:30, and it'll be on their Facebook Live page. And they're going to be talking about, this is part of the Connect the Connector meeting, which is a very collaborative group with Southside Thrive. They're going to be talking about transportation and mobility. So if you're interested in learning about service changes and the new CODA initiatives on the South Side, do go to Facebook for Southside Thrive on Wednesday. My office is normally at the Reed Avenue Center, and I wanted to share an update with you. They are continuing to serve the community. They continue to serve free lunch Monday through Friday from 11 to 2, and they're also continuing to do the Tuesday night dinners. If you have any concerns, a lot of the partners are still working either virtually or there. So if you'd like to have an appointment with any of the partners, you can just walk in to the Reeb Avenue Center and set up an appointment with Miss Mandy at the front desk there. Your City Pride team is continuing to work for you. I know Melissa shared about code enforcement. They're continuing to work in the neighborhood and are continuing to respond to 311 requests. We also closely work with our neighborhood social work team with Columbus Public Health, and they're continuing to work with you. They help with a wide variety of health and social service needs, and you can call the social work helpline at 614-645-6807 to get in touch with social work. Also, our neighborhood health nurse would also like to remind you of some of the nearby Southside COVID-19 testing sites. So you have testing sites at Columbus Public Health Department at 240 Parsons, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And then on the south side, Primary One Health at the John Maloney Center at 1905 Parsons, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 to 1. If you need to have a test, you can call 614-645-1519 for more information or to go to columbus.gov public health page. I also have a few other community resources that I do want to share that everybody who knows and works with me, I seem to share these a lot, so I want to share this with everybody. There are free Narcan kits available to all Franklin County residents through Franklin County. If you go to the website, it's fckaddiction.com, and you can have a free Narcan kit mailed to your house. Also, SNAP benefits. If you have issues with your SNAP card or your PEBT card, the pandemic EBT card, please do contact our friends at Mid-Ohio Food Bank. And their website is midohiofoodbank.org, and they have a number of great people, great partners that we work with who can help you out. And I know we haven't said this yet, and you've probably heard it, there is still time to fill out the census. So if you go to 2020census.gov, do take a few minutes and fill out that census form. And if you have issues filling out the census form and you live on the south side, if you give me an email at bfkinney@columbus.gov, I can put you in touch with our friends at Southside Thrive, and we can see if they can make an appointment with you and take care of you. And if you would like to contact me or for more resources, you can feel free to reach out to me and I can add you to my email list. So thank you very much, Director, for the time.
Thanks, Beth, and I will turn this back over to Melissa. Thanks, Melissa.
Yes, thank you, Director. And Beth, I'm not sure, did you mention also the produce distribution events that are ongoing at our recreation and park centers? So a lot of the recreation and parks facilities actually have produce giveaways. Again, if you want to contact Beth or myself, my email is megreen@columbus.gov. I know Beth is bfkinney@columbus.gov. We can send you over the information about those, but typically they're every other week on Thursdays between 3:30 and 5 p.m. at most of our rec centers. So on the west side, that would include Glenwood, Dodge, and Holton. So at this point in time, I would like to introduce you to Zach Gwynne, who is our West Side City Attorney, who can give us a couple of updates about the efforts that are ongoing on the west side as it relates to city attorney activities.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. And yeah, as Melissa said, I'm Zach Gwynne. I serve as the zone attorney for the west side of the city. Most recently on Wednesday, we filed 2 nuisance abatement actions that directly affect the west side of the city, specifically 423 South Ogden Avenue. Now at that location, we had multiple overdoses, a shooting in which someone was shot in the chest. And during one of the overdoses, it was reported that one of the drug dealers had actually prevented others from calling 911 at the time. That individual last reported was brain dead at West Hospital. The other property that we filed on was 2449 West Broad Avenue. That is part of a mixed-use development. The one we filed on specifically was 2449, and that is a commercial property. There was an after-hours nightclub that was running out of there. Multiple shootings, drugs, and guns recovered at the scene. Our Safe Streets team came out and helped us execute the abatement. And when they went into the property, they found the markings of what was a potential dog fighting ring that was running out of the premises. So on Wednesday, both of those properties were boarded up. We have a pending action to keep those boarded up for up to a year, and that is going to come back to court on Thursday. I know illegal dumping is obviously always a big concern, and the West Side sees its fair share. Most recently, the city attorney's office has dedicated a special prosecutor to handle illegal dumping cases. As of today, we have filed 15 new illegal dumping cases since he's been assigned. So he was assigned back in about the middle of June. And so we have 15 illegal dumping cases that have been filed. And I like to think that, he's really just getting started, and he has great assistance of Adam Gray and the rest of the refuse division, Brian Valentine over there. And they are doing a great job of getting information to him, helping him make a decision on whether or not charges are going to be merited. And so he also is doing retaliatory evictions. So in situations in which a resident calls code violations in on potentially a landlord, and then because of them calling in on code, they try to evict the person just based on calling code enforcement, he handles those retaliatory evictions as well. I saw in the comment section, I believe someone was asking about 563 South Hague Avenue. James White, I'm going to email you personally. I was working on that one today. I don't want to add too much publicly, but it is an active investigation, and we are working on that one. With regards to just general court procedures, the courthouse is open. A lot of the judges are continuing cases and trying to keep appearances down to a minimum. Evictions and traffic court are now being held at the Columbus Convention Center to help out with social distancing. And if you have a case and you're not sure when it is scheduled, you can always go to fcmcclerk.com. That's so I'm going to now throw it to, unless there are any questions, throw it to Tierra Ross, who is our Southside zone attorney.
Good evening, everyone. I am Tierra Ross. As Zach said, I am the zone attorney for the South Side, but I would be remiss if I did not also recognize Heidi Carr. She is my colleague, and we both share the South Side. We like to split it between Freebus. So if you are a member of the Marion Village, Southern Orchards, Jessler Park, Schumacher Place communities, you all would have Heidi Carr as your zone attorney. That's situated in Zone 5. If you are south of Freebus and you are a part of Southfield, Marion Franklin, Reeb, Hozak, those communities are a part of Zone 2, and that is the area that I cover. And so if you aren't aware, the police department does split the city of Columbus into 5 zones. Every zone has a zone attorney. And so when Zach says he's the West Side zone attorney, he, along with myself, along with Heidi Carr, also have our own respective zones that we assist community members with nuisance properties. We file nuisance abatement actions. Those are property-based nuisance actions whereby we hold landlords and property owners responsible for maintaining their properties with compliance or in compliance with Columbus City Code. As Zach mentioned, we have a lot of things that we have in the works in our office. We mainly deal with drug houses. And so in the areas of Parsons, there are a few properties that we are working very closely with CPD on that we will be able to action soon. One of the bigger cases that I am actually handling is with Family Dollar. And so, as many of you know, Family Dollar has struggled by way of maintenance of their properties with regard to trash, with regard to dumping, with regard to safety. And so I am working on a global resolution and we'll be taking care of that from a citywide perspective. More to come on that, but I have connected with their council. They were recently purchased by the Dollar Tree. And so the Dollar Tree is very interested in making sure that they show their commitment to the Columbus community by ensuring that there is a consistent and always maintained process for them to clean up their areas and making sure that the crime levels at Family Dollar is reduced and mitigated significantly. With regard to Jaquettas, Heidi wanted me to let those folks in Zone 5 know that there has been a lawsuit filed. And so more to come on that, but we did file a lawsuit on Jaquettas. They were not able to keep their properties maintained, and so we will be handling that. It will be monitored in the environmental court. Once there is a case number, we will be communicating that to the community. And as Zach said, you can follow that on the Franklin County Municipal Court Clerk's website for any updates there. With regard to 1690 South High Street, that is the Sunoco property on South High. That was a bit of a mess. And so we have worked with the property owners on a very stringent agreed order that delineates what they are going to have to do in order for us not to object to their liquor license, in order for us not to file an additional nuisance abatement case. They have seemed to be doing well with that agreed entry, but again, community members are always our watch eyes, our watch dogs. And so if you all are seeing anything that you think are not in compliance with what they have agreed to, please feel free to reach out to our office. I believe the Department of Neighborhoods is going to include our contact information. And so you are welcome to call our office or email us at any time if you have any questions, if you have any concerns. And with that, I will turn it back over to Beth unless there are additional questions specific to the South Side.
Tierra, there is one question regarding, and I guess this is for you, both you and Zach. And Kelly is asking, is 311 their best course of action to get information to the city about drug houses and nuisance houses?
So yes, you always want to report to 311 about drug houses. And the reason why you want to do that is because 311 has a very good tracking system. And so they will be able to give you information on updates with regard to investigations promptly, but also you are welcome to call the Narcotics Division directly. And so that is also, I always encourage community members to do both. I always encourage them to call 311, make sure you report that, make sure there's a ticket created so that you can track, but also reach out to Narcotics directly. And that phone number is 614-645-4616. That is the direct line to Narcotics. If no one answers, please leave a voicemail, and then the complaint will get assigned to a detective.
Thank you, Tierra. And I think it goes back to Beth for next steps.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Zach and Tierra, for joining us. And shout out to Heidi also. I know we work closely in our team with all three. So I would like to next introduce Stephen Sarah with the Mayor's Office. Stephen?
Thank you, Beth, and good evening, everyone. I am here to follow up on some of the remarks the mayor made earlier this evening during his portion of the presentation and talk for a few minutes about the Civilian Police Review Board and Inspector General Charter Amendment. Like the mayor mentioned, this November, for the first time in our city's history, Columbus voters will have the opportunity to amend our city's constitution, the charter, to establish a Civilian Police Review Board and create an Inspector General for the Columbus Division of Police that will conduct independent investigations into police misconduct. This charter amendment will allow Columbus voters to demonstrate their desire for this police reform and establish a framework for Civilian Review Board that has subpoena powers, the authority to conduct independent investigations, recommend disciplinary action, and that is fully staffed and funded. There is actually language that is included in the charter amendment that will provide for funding into the future baked into the city's charter constitution unless the city is in a fiscal calamity. So what this does is it embeds this new entity into our charter to make it something that can't change with political winds if different mayors and city councils come into power. So this charter amendment will provide the foundation for the Civilian Review Board work group's recommendations on the powers, form, and function of the Columbus Civilian Review Board, and help ensure that those recommendations are implemented with the full support of Columbus residents. As the mayor mentioned, that group recently held its first meeting. The charter amendment will not unnecessarily limit, however, the authority of the Civilian Police Review Board in the future. This is a starting point and provides the pillars for what the Civilian Police Review Board looks like moving forward. The amendment establishes the pillars for this review board, borrowing best practices from around the country while allowing the community to shape a board that reflects our values. Details of the number of board members, how they are appointed, how many terms they will serve, important functions like how investigations will be conducted, and disciplinary recommendations handed out will be shaped by the Civilian Review Board working group currently meeting with community input. Many of the key elements of a strong Civilian Review Board, things that our residents care most about, must be negotiated with the FOP and will likely face challenges during the negotiating process. We feel that this reform has been called upon by the residents and will send a strong message about where our city is going moving forward. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. All right, well, Melissa, then I will hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And if we get any questions that come through, we will make sure to get those over to you. So now I would like to welcome Aaron Beck from the Office of the Mayor as well, who is going to speak with us this evening about some really exciting work as it relates to sustainability and electric aggregation.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Melissa. Again, my name is Erin Beck, and I'm part of our policy team in the mayor's office. I am our Sustainable Columbus Liaison, and so I'm working closely on our electric aggregation efforts along with our consultants and our sustainability team. So really excited to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you so much to the Department of Neighborhoods for holding this virtual town hall. And for allowing us some space to discuss the city's efforts around electric aggregation, which is an issue that's going to be appearing on the ballot this November. So this evening, I really had 4 objectives and goals to share and that I hope anyone tuning in can leave with. 1, I wanted to share information and understanding of electric community choice aggregation. 2, share some of the value and benefits of community choice aggregation. 3, share a little bit about our goals and timeline, and then also a little bit of the process. So earlier this year, the mayor committed the city of Columbus to pursuing community choice aggregation with a goal to implement a program that provides 100% clean, renewable energy by 2022. So that's really the North Star goal that's guiding our timeline and our process for aggregation as we move forward. And we've really taken some key steps toward meeting that 2022 timeline already. The city has brought on an energy consultant to assist the city in all aspects of establishing this program. And we've also passed legislation this past July on the 20th to place this issue on the ballot this November. So just what is community choice aggregation and what does that mean? How does that get us to 100% clean energy? Community choice aggregation allows the city to purchase energy on behalf of its residents, providing competitive pricing through group buying power, and in this instance, as I've mentioned, ensuring a 100% clean, renewable energy source. So residents and businesses, they will continue to receive the same service from their utility, from AEP through the wires. It's just simply the energy source or where the energy is generated that would change. So choice is also something that's critical to this program. Residents can always choose to opt out of the program if they don't wish to participate. So the city has also been very clear as we're moving forward in this effort that we're looking to source clean energy as locally as possible. So that can really have a huge impact for the clean energy industry and for new clean energy development in Ohio and in Central Ohio for years to come. So this effort is something that is going to support clean energy jobs that provide good wages and benefits. And the city is also really interested in how this effort and initiative can also work to build a diverse workforce pipeline that's really connecting our residents to those good clean energy job opportunities. So really exciting things that are happening with this initiative, really exciting opportunity that we have in front of us. There's really a lot more that I could say about the effort. I know we have a lot to get through this evening though, but to summarize again, the aggregation effort really is about providing 100% clean energy for residents. It's about providing competitive rates and choice to residents. And it is about supporting clean energy jobs and really transforming our energy future in an equitable and impactful way. And so again, this is something that in order for the city to move forward with this and to be able to implement this program, it does have to go to the ballot first and will be appearing on the ballot this November. And so if you do want to learn more about this issue, you can certainly reach out to me and reach out to the city at cleanenergydca@columbus.gov. And I do know that in the Google Drive that I think is shared with everybody this evening, there's also a one-pager overview of aggregation as well as an FAQ document. And there is a website that residents can go to as well if they would like to learn more, and that's www.cleanenergycolumbus.org. I don't know if any questions came through. Okay, no questions, but I will be on for the rest of the meeting if there are any later. And with that, I'll hand things back over to Beth.
Thank you so much, Erin. Okay, so next we're going to talk to Priyam, who is the Director in Community and Legislative Strategies with Celebrate One.
Thank you, Beth, and the Department of Neighborhoods team for the opportunity to share a bit about what we are up to at Celebrate One. Good evening, everyone. My name is Priyam Chokshi, and as Beth mentioned, I serve as the Director of Community and Legislative Strategies for Celebrate One. So for those of you who may not know, Celebrate One is a collective impact initiative tasked to reduce infant mortality and address health disparities in Columbus and Franklin County. We believe addressing the social determinants of health, such as education, employment, housing, and transportation, can help improve social and economic conditions in our high-risk neighborhoods that contribute to high infant mortality rates. So our 8 priority neighborhoods are Linden, Northland, Northeast, Near East, Southeast, Southside, Franklinton, and Hilltop. What I would like to highlight today is the importance of education, especially the importance of comprehensive, medically accurate reproductive health education. So in addition to having one of the highest infant mortality rates in the nation, Ohio ranks 23rd out of 50 states for teenage pregnancies. Teen pregnancy is a significant contributor to prematurity, which is a leading cause of infant mortality because pregnant teens have a higher risk of having a baby born too small or too soon. So Celebrate One has recently partnered with Planned Parenthood to implement a peer education program for high school age youth in our community. The goal of the peer education program is to support development of healthy lifestyles and responsible choices by adolescents. We want to help empower youth to be leaders, reduce the rates of teen pregnancy and STIs, and promote healthy decision-making by providing accurate information. Celebrate One is recruiting 60 individuals ages 14 to 19 this month until the end of the month, the 31st, to become peer educators. Participants will have the opportunity to earn a total of $450 in stipends, engage in training, learning, and helping influence their peers in healthy decision-making during the one-year program. So interested individuals can apply at ohiocenterforsexed.org. And for more information, you can contact Peer Education at ppoh.org. There's also a flyer with more information and details about the program in the Google Doc. And one last thing I want to update the community and just let folks know, we have our Community Connector program. So community health workers are here to help pregnant and parenting women and families get connected to resources. There's also a flyer with more information on the Google Doc about how to find a community connector in your community. You can also contact Amber Jones at 614-570-3492. or AC Jones at columbus.gov. And again, there's a flyer in the Google Doc. And also you can visit our website and find out who the connector is in your community. So thanks so much. And I'll turn over to Melissa.
Thank you, Priyam. And then before we move on really fast, I did just want to take an opportunity to see if I could get Erin back on the line here, because we did have a question come through related to our energy aggregation. And I was wondering if you might be able to answer it for us. The question is whether or not the people who might be talking about the aggregation initiatives are the same as the people who might be coming to your doors at your homes asking for you to sign up for their energy company.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa, and to the resident for such a great question. That really is a great question, and happy to address it. So the easy answer is no. This is not the same as the folks who are coming to your door and looking to sell energy. But just to explain that a little bit, so energy in Ohio is actually deregulated. And sort of my energy 101 that I sometimes go through with folks is there's three main components, which are generation, transmission, and distribution. And it's that generation portion that's deregulated. And so actually residents have the ability to shop for energy if they would like to. And so that's why sometimes you might see people coming door to door. Those are suppliers generally who are supplying the energy, who are going door to door and would like you to sign up with them. And certainly residents have the ability to do that if they choose to, but that's not something that the city will be doing. So the way that this program would work is that the city would be purchasing energy on residents and small businesses' behalf. Again, like I said, you always have the choice to opt out and not participate if you choose to. So I hope that is a good explanation and helpful. So, but the easy answer is no, it's not the same.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. And then I'm not sure if you have the answer to this. We received another question about the Community Energy Savers Grant Program between AEP and Columbia Gas. The question was specifically about the Hilltop neighborhood who reached their goals last year, but they haven't seen any updates about the initiative since completing their goals related to the funding that they were supposed to receive for their community projects. So if you don't have any questions readily available to that, would we be able to maybe put you in touch with James and we can get some information for him?
Certainly, yes. I was going to say, I know Elena Shockey, who is our Director of Sustainability, really oversees that program and initiative and works really closely with AEP. So definitely happy to follow up and seeing where that is. So because I think if I recall, the prize for that was new lighting at West High School, which is really exciting. So definitely want to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, James, we will put you in touch with the appropriate people to figure out where that project is at. Okay, at this point in time, I want to welcome to the floor our Deputy Director of Public Service, Mandy Bishop, who is here this evening to speak with us about our Vision Zero initiative.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I just want to thank everyone for being on tonight. It's really been great to hear a bit about these initiatives, but I'm learning a lot just listening to all your updates. So it's really of great value to many of us, including the community. And it's my privilege to oversee the Vision Zero initiative and be here tonight to share details about this bold new initiative that makes protecting human lives the highest of all of our transportation system priorities. Our goal is to make it possible to drive safe, walk safe, and bike safe as you're getting to and through our neighborhoods. We want to work with you to eliminate life-altering crashes. They're not accidents, they're crashes. Vision Zero is a fundamental change in approach to traffic safety, and we're really looking at the transportation system as a whole. We're looking at it with input from local agencies, experts, and residents to consider all transportation users, including motorists, transit users, cyclists, pedestrians. And we all have a need to use our transportation network to get to food, medicine, work, and school. And we all have a right to be able to make it home at the end of the day. Certainly, we've always cared about traffic safety. As an engineer, it's been at the forefront when I've designed many roads. Yet Vision Zero is a shift in mindset. Traffic deaths and serious injuries are preventable and they're not inevitable. Again, they're crashes, not accidents. And Vision Zero has one goal. We want to achieve 0 serious injuries or deaths while increasing safety, healthy and equitable mobility for all residents and visitors. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, by making safety and protecting human lives the single highest priority of the transportation system. In Columbus, 57 people were killed in traffic crashes on our roads in 2018. And these numbers are on the rise in 2019 and 2020. And just to give you a few more facts, pedestrians are 14 times more likely than a motorist to die or be seriously injured in a crash. Bicyclists are 6 more times likely. Motorcyclists are 16 more times likely than a motorist to die or be seriously injured in a crash. An individual is much more vulnerable when they're not surrounded by that steel frame of a car or truck, and we know that. Nationally, we also know that traffic crashes are the #1 killer of children and adolescents. Just this month, a 16-month-old child was killed in a car crash here in Columbus, and we have to really work to put an end to this. Some of the concepts that we hear about with COVID-19 and preventing that epidemic apply here. The idea of we and not just me, that's how our actions using our transportation system, considering that how it affects others is extremely important. To further emphasize that point, everyone deserves to arrive safe, whether they're in a car, on a bus, on a bike, in a wheelchair, or on a sidewalk. We all deserve that right. Communities of interest is a term that we use to help identify areas of Columbus that may need extra investment in street safety. Compared to other neighborhoods, people living in communities of interest may have fewer choices about how, when, and where they travel, putting them at higher risk as they move around the city. Under Mayor Ginther's leadership, all city departments and local partners like CODA are coming together to ensure we are all bringing our expertise to the table to address this issue. And we're putting together an action plan to take steps to eliminate these worst crashes. This plan uses crash data to identify in a more proactive way than the traditional approach. We start with crash reports to identify high crash locations, and we've created a high injury network. And in Columbus, what that means is we found that less than 10% of our streets have 60% of the serious crashes, and that's our high injury network. These tend to be multi-lane roadways with heavier traffic that may also have higher speeds. And as you help us develop our plan, we really need to hear from you. We have to get input about your concerns. And I really challenge and ask everyone to go to columbus.gov/vision0 to tell us about your current concerns. We have a survey and a map that you can mark up and tell you where you're seeing those near misses or actually those crashes, so that we can inform our decision-making as we move and develop this action plan. Because 0 serious injuries and deaths are the only acceptable number for Columbus, 0. I hope you will go online and give us your thoughts on how we can all go home safely to our loved ones tonight. We've uploaded informational documents to the link for this meeting as well. I appreciate your taking your time to listen to this, and for the Department of Neighborhoods for giving us some space on your agenda. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Beth.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Okay. And I know on the Google Doc, we'll have that Vision Zero website on it, which is extremely fun to use to put that information. I have a question from earlier that I wanted to just address. It's a question from D. Hello, D. The question is, who will replace Doug? Doug worked in our mayor's office and worked closely with our residents on the south side. And right now we're currently assessing our overall staffing needs in the mayor's office, and that assessment will guide us how we move forward. But in the meantime, you can contact Community Liaison Jason Jenkins to answer some questions or to work with you. And you can email me at bfkinney@columbus.gov and I will connect you with him. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm making sure. Okay. Oh, and we do have a question for Vision Zero. This is from James. How do I get more involved with Vision Zero? And is there an update on the East Lane corner of Sullivan and Hague being converted into a right turn only lane?
That is a great question, James. So we have 4 working groups that anyone can join, and I'd love to get your contact information to provide you information about those groups so that you can assess which or all of them you'd like to participate in. And as far as the update at the East Lane at the corner of Sullivan and Hague, I'd also like to connect with the project manager for that and provide more information at a later time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just double checking. Any other questions? Okay, so next on our agenda, I'd like to introduce Adam Gray, who is the District Assistant Manager with Public Service. Adam?
Good evening, thank you. So it was just a little bit over 2 years ago that the mayor introduced his Clean Neighborhoods initiative. So to start out, I'd like to give an update on that. The 2-year anniversary was right at the end of July. And since that initiative was announced, the Division of Refuse Collection has really been aggressively combating illegal dumping. Just to cover some of the advances that we've been able to make in the last 2 years since that initiative was announced. One of the first things we were able to do was to get some new refuse collection equipment and 3 dedicated employees at each station every day. What they do is they sweep the alleys to ensure that they're picking up any illegally dumped material that they find. In the last 2 years, they have actually picked up 10,000 tons of illegally dumped material. And that includes 8,000 tires. Some of the other things that we're doing, and this comes right to some of the questions that came across about the 300-gallon containers. So what we find with those 300-gallon containers is people that want to illegally dump know that those are good spots to do it. They know that the capacity is there. They know that the containers are there, and that often there might be a dark spot in the alley at night that they can go down and dump in. Often then when residents go out to put their trash in their 300-gallon container, there's no room, there's no capacity left. The containers tend to get overfilled, the trash dumps out. Because they're overfilled, when the truck goes to collect the trash, a lot of times the trash will spill, and oftentimes it actually contributes to damage to those 300-gallon containers. So the decision was made that every 300-gallon container that can be in the city of Columbus will be switched over to a 90-gallon container. So far, we've been able to switch out 2,174 of those, and they've been replaced with 7,014 90-gallon containers. We are still currently working through those. In fact, if you go to the 311 website, or I'm sorry, the Columbus.gov website, and you go to the 311 section, there is actually a list there that is constantly updated with the conversions that are going to be happening in the next few months. So you can always go there and see when your neighborhood is scheduled to be converted. If you don't see your neighborhood on there, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be converted. It just means that they haven't gotten to your neighborhood yet. So what they do is they do studies to look at tonnage, to look at you know how many containers that are able to convert when they do a conversion, and so they basically just work through those in the most logical manner they can with the studies that they do. So if, like I said, if you don't see yourself on there, it's not that it's not going to be converted, it's just that they haven't gotten to it yet. Some of the other things, very importantly, actually, when this initiative first started, we only had 1 solid waste investigator. Today, we're up to 5 solid waste investigators. It's a great team. They work really hard with our city attorney's office. As Zach said, we have a really good ally there now with Christopher Clark. He's been great. And I would absolutely echo what Zach said. We're just at the beginning here. We're just getting rolling. We're just getting fired up. So this year we have filed 35 so far cases. Last year, I believe there were only 14 filed. So we're definitely above that already. I know that so far this year, we've had 9 convictions. I want to say we've got quite a few arraignments coming up. That's expected to potentially up to double by the end of this next week. So hopefully we continue to get those convictions. That kind of brings us to one of our next big tools that we've actually just received, and that is the new rewrite of Title 13. So that is actually, Title 13 is the section of city code that deals with refuse collection, and that had not been rewritten in approximately 20 years. So for the last 2 years, they've been working really hard to get community feedback on what the community wants to see, what's important to the community, the problems the community's seeing. And they've taken a lot of that and they've used that as they've rewritten Title 13. One of the biggest changes and one of the things that's going to really be a new tool in the solid waste investigators tool belt is the creation of civil violations. The solid waste investigators will now be able to issue civil violations instead of just criminal violations. Basically what that means, for a long time, we've had things that in Title 13 you weren't allowed to do or were illegal to do. The problem was we really didn't have a good way to enforce those things. We were able to use Ohio Revised Code for our criminal cases, but when it came to smaller things that oftentimes lead to big things, we didn't really have any teeth, anything we could really use to go after those. So what this will do is that's going to open up our ability to do that on a lot of the issues that we weren't necessarily able to go after before. One of the big ones, just as an example, with the 300-gallon containers, when someone would come down, like a construction contractor or someone else, and they would fill those 300-gallon containers up, there really wasn't anything in Ohio Revised Code that would allow us to go after them. Now we actually can. We can actually go after them with a $1,000 violation. So that's going to really give us another tool where we can really fight these issues. I know certainly if there's any other questions, I can certainly answer those. I don't know if I missed any. I think I did actually see a question earlier about damaged 300s. Certainly, as Tierra said, the best option is to call 311. And for all the same reasons that she said, you know, the tracking there is the best. It gives you the ability to look up right where the status is at any time, 24 hours a day. But also it helps us to track where we're getting a lot of calls, where those issues maybe are going, you know, are a really high priority for us. And so 311 ideally is where we want to see all that. Same with illegal dumping. If you see illegal dumping, if you can go to 311, call 311, or go to the 311 website or the My Columbus app and report that. If you can get us, the more information you can get us, the better. Certainly license plates, descriptions of the car, descriptions of the person dumping. We need all of that. We really need to be partners with the residents. So if there are any other questions.
Hey, Adam, Kelly has a question about, is there a schedule for when alleys are swept?
So the way that works, they actually are on a rotation. They work their way through those. Often they're in those, you know, 2 to 3 times a month. They do tend to hit our hot spots most often. So our hot spots on the west side are the Franklinton and Hilltop areas. And then also on the south side would be the area just south of Livingston Avenue in the Parsons Avenue area. Those are kind of our hot spots in relation to this call. Those are the ones that they're in most often, just because there's, you know, almost always things that need picked up there. But they do work their way through every day through, you know, all of the zones. Were there any other questions?
Adam, there is another question that's about studies, numbers or reports that point to the smaller containers generating less trash. Okay.
Yeah, what we see, I imagine what they're referring to is the studies that we see are that the 300-gallon containers actually lead to illegal dumping. We see that they're kind of a magnet for that illegal dumping. You know, one of the reasons for that also with the 90-gallon container, when it's not in use, code actually says that that's supposed to be up on your property. And that does help us with that illegal dumping because it's not out in the alley or out in the street where it can be dumped into, you know, during off hours.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much. And I love working with your team, obviously on the South Side. Next, we appreciate your time. If there's other questions, we'll be addressing those and following up. So, okay. So next I would like to introduce Emerald Hernandez Parra, who is the Assistant Director with the Department of Neighborhoods. Emerald?
Beth, she was having,
Is she having issues?
yeah, she was having some issues. So we're going to move on. I will,
Okay.
if I can, we'll move on. I know we had My Brother's Keeper on there, and My Brother's Keeper program manager is not available. But I would give everyone, we could put the My Brother's Keeper Village website in the chat. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to us. But one of the things I just wanted to share about MBK is that we are working, we understand the disparities for boys and young men of color. And so our team with My Brother's Keeper is working with community partners to provide access and resources for our boys and young men of color, especially, you know, with everything that has been going on over the last few weeks. So I will put that information, the website in the chat. You can check out the website or email us, and we are happy to respond to any questions. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, Director. Okay, so we're going to introduce you to Chris Kozad, who is the Chair of the Community Relations Commission. Chris?
Hi, everybody. I am glad to be here. As Beth said, my name is Chris Kozad, and I am the chair of the Columbus Community Relations Commission. The commission is an all-volunteer body housed within the Department of Neighborhoods, and we work to educate residents on civil rights protections that exist in the city code and to help folks who need assistance in navigating those kinds of problems. So you may all not know this, but in Columbus, it is illegal to discriminate on the basis of race, sex, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, disability, familial status, or military status. So that is a pretty good list of protected classes, and the sort of categories of discrimination that CRC addresses are employment discrimination, housing discrimination, and discrimination in public accommodation. And so the first thing I like to say to folks is that if you believe you have been subjected to unequal or different treatment, particularly in the last 6 months, we encourage you to reach out to the commission. You may well be able to file a complaint, and that can be done online at www.columbus.gov/discrimination, and that can also go through 311. All residents of Columbus are entitled to a fair, thorough, professional investigation. They're also, you need to be afforded the opportunity for voluntary mediation to try and help resolve the concerns. And we also have a lot of referrals and other agencies that may be able to help you, even if CRC cannot. In addition to sort of investigating discrimination complaints and helping residents to find some relief there, we also work a lot with other areas in the Department of Neighborhoods, area commissions, civic associations, and so on, with our mediation services to help with misunderstandings, conflicts, help community members and community organizations work together to resolve those kinds of situations. Our main goal with mediation is to make sure that we bring the parties together to examine the situation from all possible angles and perspectives so that we can promote understanding and come up with and identify good compromises that will leave all parties more satisfied than they were coming into the mediation process. It is, of course, voluntary. It's also a non-binding agreement between the two parties. But our commissioners are trained in mediation, and we've had a lot of success with it over the years. So even though it's technically not binding, we can't order, for example, a former employer to do something specific. We can often come up with solutions that help everybody get to that next step. One of the easiest ways to access us if you need some mediation in your neighborhood or you're having issues is through your neighborhood liaisons. Commission also does a lot of educational programming for communities, for organizations, for our individual residents. We do a large annual lunch and learn series every year. It's been virtual this year, where we address various facets of discrimination, or we look at particular groups of protected classes and really do kind of a deep dive into those topics. It's a great educational opportunity, and you can always find that information also at the Department of Neighborhoods website /events. We also promote them on Facebook. I encourage you to follow the commission on Facebook. I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat, Chris. Thank you. And before I turn it back over to Beth, I would just like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. All of our folks on the panel, my colleagues at the city, and all of those of you who tuned in to us on Facebook Live. Again, we have 2 more of these sessions coming up. Next Monday, the 24th, and the following Monday, which is, help me out, Beth, is that the 30th? 31st? 31st. Thank you. And now I will turn it back over to Beth. And then just again, on behalf of our mayor, thank you very much. Again, we're trying to come up with different ways where we can stay in touch with all of our residents during COVID-19. And so please know that we are always available. You can reach us through 311, or you can reach us at the Department of Neighborhoods at 614-645-1993, and we will return your calls as soon as we possibly can. Beth, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, Mayor, for joining us, and thank you for everybody. And on behalf of Melissa Green and myself, I want to say thank you, neighbors, friends, partners, everybody for joining us tonight here on Facebook. I know that our team, we have a Google chat or Google Drive link in there that will have updates, and I know, so do check that out. And as the director said, next Monday, for our friends in the Short North University, Clintonville, Fifth by Northwest, West Iota, Northwest and Far West communities, you're going to have the fantastic hosts of Catherine Cole and Rebecca Dietz on Monday, August 24th at 5 p.m. And then on Monday, August 31st, our fantastic neighborhood liaisons, Delana Scales and Afrida Kenya, will be your hosts. So if you live in those communities, definitely do check it out. And thank you so much, and continue to follow us on Facebook, and we'll have more updates. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.